Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. V. Sundarraj, Assistant Professor of Commerce, Sri S. Ramaswamy Naidu Memorial College, Satur. Today we are discussing income from house property. Income Tax Act 1961 deals with the computation of the taxable income from house property. This is the second get of income. Income from house property is not based on the actual income, but it is based upon the notional income or the annual value of that property. Annual value. Annual value is a notional income. For determining the annual value, the various factors like municipal value, fair rent value, actual rent value, standard rent, unrealized rent, and loss due to vacancy are taken into consideration. Factors determining the annual value. The following factors are to be consideration for determining the gross annual value of the house property. Gross annual value. Okay. Municipal rental value. Municipal rental value means refers to the value determined by the municipal authorities for laying municipal tax on house property. Municipal rental value, it refers to the value determined by the municipal authorities. Fair rental value. Fair rental value means fair rental value of the property is the rent fetched by a similar property in the same or similar locality. Standard rent. Standard rent refers to the rent, the maximum amount of rent fixed under the Rent Control Act, which a person can legally recover from his tenant. Next, actual rent. Actual rent refers to the owner some amount actually received by a tenant for let-out purpose. Okay. Next, composite rent. Composite rent means the amount received by the owner towards rent for house as well as for various amenities provided to the tenant such as lift, security, electricity, water, etc. is called composite rent. Computation of income from house property. To compute income from house property may be classified as under let-out property. Let-out property means total property can be let out by the tenant. Self-occupied property. Point number 2, self-occupied property. Self-occupied property means property fully occupied by the owner. Property fully occupied by the owner. Third one, deemed to be let-out property. Deemed to be let-out property means assessee two or more house properties held at the time Income Tax Department only 2 houses can valid under the self-occupied house. Other properties valid under the deemed to be let-out properties. This property calculation based on the same to the let-out property. Fourth one, partly let-out and partly self-occupied. This situation, house property, one part self-occupied and remaining part let-out. It's called partly let-out and partly self-occupied. Okay. Next. Format of computation of house property income. Particular 2 amount column. Gross annual value less municipal tax paid by the owner. It's called net annual value. Less deduction under section 24. Point number 1, standard deduction 30% of net annual value. Interest on borrowed capital paid or due. Total outer column. Remaining amount, it's called income from house property. So, it is format of computation of house property income. Computation of gross annual value. Expected rent value compared to actual rent value, whichever is higher, it's considered gross annual value. Gross annual value, it's considered expected rent value compared to actual rent value, whichever is higher. So, what is expected rent value? How to calculate expected rent value? The expected rent value is computed on the basis of the following 3 factors: municipal rental value, fair rental value, standard rental value. So, municipal value and fair rental value compare whichever is higher. Then compare to standard rent whichever is lower. First you take municipal value, fair rental value, compare whichever is higher. Then compare to standard rent whichever is lower. It's called expected rent. Expected rent compared to actual rent whichever is higher. It's called gross annual value. When actual rent value is not given the problem, the expected rental value is the gross annual value. When actual rental value is not given the problem, the expected rental value is the gross annual value. Important notes. Gross annual value is taken as nil for two self-occupied property. Assessee held two more self-occupied property. That time assessee only two self-occupied property, gross annual value is taken as nil. Municipal tax paid by the owner is allowed for deduction. Paid by the tenant is not allowed. Municipal tax paid by the owner allowed for deduction to gross annual value, but paid by the tenant is not allowed. Municipal tax due is also not allowed. Municipal tax paid is only allowed for deduction. Municipal tax due is not allowed for deduction. Standard deduction should be given all house compulsorily except for self-occupied house. Standard deduction should be given all houses compulsorily except for self-occupied house at 30% on net annual value. It will not be mentioned in the problem. Point number 5. If there are more than two self-occupied houses whose gross annual value is higher, should be taken as self-occupied and all other houses deemed to be let out. In that situation, assessee held two more property under self-occupied, only two houses taken as self-occupied. Other houses deemed to be let out. Okay, next, for self-occupied house only interest on borrowed capital is allowed, because self-occupied house annual value is nil. Interest on borrowed capital is only taken as account. Self-occupied house will always show loss of house property income. Self-occupied house always show the loss of house property income.